Well, hello. Welcome to this Monday night's paint along. My name is Allie. I am a painting instructor. I teach online painting courses, and I also teach painting workshops here at my studio in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And for the past year or so, I have been coming to you every Monday night at 5 Eastern to teach a 1-hour live demo. And this is the final paint along. Not like the final one for 2021. This is the final one. But I don't want you guys to be too disappointed because I have something bigger and better coming for you next year. I'm going to be launching the Fresh Paint Tribe. Haven't told you too much about it just yet. I'm kind of slowly releasing the details for that, but I will tell you that it's going to allow for a lot more opportunity for more detailed instruction, and there's going to be some bigger demos. There's going to be some more beginner lessons. We're going to talk about materials more, mixing paint colors, all that good stuff that I know is going to help so many of you become better artists. And you already are becoming amazing artists just by joining me week after week doing these demos. But I want to talk more about the process next year. So we're going to really dive deep in the Fresh Paint Tribe. If you're interested in knowing more, you can click the link on my bio on Allie K Studio to join the waitlist. So make sure you do that because the waitlist people are going to find out all the details first and get some extra little bonuses. So that's that. Let's just jump right in and do the reindeer paint along. So real quick, in case we have new people, because we always do, I like to let you know how this works. So I'm going to do this painting right next to me here from start to finish tonight. And I have a download on my website on alliekstudio.com where you can get the outlines to trace onto your panel so that you can come back and paint this with me. So some of you are painting it with me live tonight, and that's awesome. Some of you are going to paint it to the replay. Either way is fine. You can always come back and watch this video as a replay. But this is what the outlines look like when they're transferred. So I have my panel ready to go. And we're gonna jump right in. So I forgot to tell you, those of you that are joining the demo, please say hi in the comments. Let everybody know where you're watching from. Let me know if you joined the Fresh Paint Tribe waitlist. I have so many people on there already. It is totally incredible. We're gonna have a lot of people in the tribe, which is gonna be super cool. Hi Debbie, hi everyone. Okay, so let's get started, all right? So here we go. This is our reference image, and I want to make sure you can see my palette and the painting. Let's make sure we don't lose any of it from the top there. That looks pretty good. Actually, we're going to get a little further away because I want to make sure we see the palette too. All right. That looks good. Okay. Cool. All right, so I'm just pulling up your feed here so I can watch your comments and your questions. I'm kind of watching as I'm painting here. Right off the bat, I want to mention that I am using golden fluid acrylics for this demo. And if you get the download with the outlines, you will have the list of the paint colors that I'm using. And yeah, we're gonna get started. All right, so I went over my outlines with a purple that I made from alizarin crimson, Payne's gray, and white, and I just painted over those using my skinny little script liner brush. The reason I do that is I just like to cover up those pencil lines. I just like to have it be paint right off the bat. And this is a wood panel that I'm working on. You can see I actually have a carpenter who builds these for me, but you can also buy these pre-made from art supply stores like Dick Blick or Jerry's Artorama, but I like this smooth surface to work on. And then I just have like 3 coats of gesso on there. As far as what kind of gesso, it doesn't really matter. I'm not picky about that. I buy pretty cheap gesso. Just make sure you sand it, and I typically water the gesso down so that I don't get like too many brush strokes or texture. You just want it to be nice and smooth. Oh boy, so many people here. Hi Gretchen, Judy, Teresa, hello everyone. And Debbie is on the wait list for the Fresh Paint Tribe. Awesome, Debbie. All right. Okay, so what we're gonna do first is we are going to start finding the shadows. So we're going to make our purple that we start all of our pieces with Payne's Gray and Alizarin Crimson. We're gonna make a big soupy puddle of it here. Lots of water in there. And I'm using my flat tip brushes. These are Royal Langnickel brushes, not expensive brushes, but new. I actually treated myself to a new set because my other ones were getting so worn out. And it makes such a difference having a new fresh brush. If I can tell you anything that will make you paint better, guys, it's probably having a fresh brush. Seriously, especially on these little pieces, because if your brush is like splitting on you, it's just gonna drive you nuts. Okay, so let's look for the shadows. I like to kind of start at the top left, and I can see the background is dark and the antlers are pretty light there. So I'm washing in this background dark, and now I can see a real dark shape on the antler, which I've kind of outlined, and then there's just a little sliver of light around the edge of it. So I'm gonna look for those dark shapes inside the antlers and paint around those as well. And then I'm gonna paint up to that little sliver of light and just keep washing in dark in the background here. And then it kind of dissolves out a little bit because we've got dark along this antler. We've got a big dark chunk here along this antler. And then the dark kind of picks up again in the background because here the antler is in highlight and the background is dark. So we've got a lot of kind of flipping back and forth here that we want to pay attention to. Which side of that line is light, which side of it is dark. And when we come back with the next pass of shadow, it will be easier because we'll be able to push these really dark areas even darker, and that's going to help to separate them a little bit. So now we've got a little dark shadow over here in the background, and then we've got a highlight here. So now the antler's kind of in highlight and the background's in highlight, so I'm just going to wash a little bit of shadow onto the antler there, just so that it doesn't look like just a line right there. Let's see, Brenda's on the wait list, Teresa's on the wait list. Thank you, thank you. Janet shared the demo. Thank you, Janet. Yes, I always appreciate when you guys share these paint along demos on your Facebook page. That helps people find me and discover what I have to offer in the teaching lessons that I love to share with you guys. All right, now let's follow this antler. You can see you've got a dark shadow along the bottom edge of this one, and then it just comes up and kind of dissolves out. And we're gonna wash in that. All right. Then we've got kind of a dark background shape here that dissolves out, picks up on the other side. This is all pretty dark in the background here. We're just gonna wash all of that in dark because the reindeer is pretty bright right there. More dark that comes in around the ear. And then the antler is pretty dark right here. Coming down. And this is the darkest part of the antler there. And we've got dark in the background between these two antlers right here. And then we're just gonna pick that dark back up over here. There we go. Now I will fully admit to you guys, this gets a little bit confusing right here. So if you are having trouble, just take a breather, like focus and find the shapes that are easy to identify. Don't keep washing in shadow if you're not sure what it is on the reference image, because if you start going off track, what's gonna happen is you are going to throw yourself off and make it harder to keep going. Looking at your comments here, Dawn says, do you have medium in the dark wash? No, Dawn, right now I'm actually just thinning my paint with water. So when I'm building up these shadows in the underpainting, I just thin with water because it will dry really quickly and allow me to layer up on top of it really fast. So after we do the underpainting, when we start putting in the local color, the actual colors of the objects, that's when we'll start to use some glazing medium. And I'm not real particular about glazing mediums. I use Liquitex matte medium. I just don't really like a shiny medium. I don't like a gloss finish because that just makes the paints look a little bit too shiny. I don't like that unevenness of my paint, but everyone kind of has their preference with what they like for mediums. I suppose acrylic painters aren't quite as picky. I know like oil painters, there's like secret sauce recipes that you have to have to get just the right flow with your paints. But with acrylic paint, especially these fluid acrylics, it's not as important exactly what you're using. Donna asks, where is the wait list again? So Donna, I posted a few links to it on my Facebook page, but as soon as I'm done with this demo, I'm gonna drop it into the comments and you'll be able to find it there. I'm trying to think if there's another place I could tell you for that link, but I think so far I've only posted about it a few times. I just made a few posts. There is a post with a picture of me wearing an orange dress that I shared a few days ago, and it's in the comments of that post. But I'll make sure I drop it into this demo as well. And we'll also get that up on my website this week too. All right. Let's see, the eye is all pretty dark. I'm just gonna wash that in lightly dark there. Okay, ooh, I need a glass of water. I'm kind of losing my voice here. All right, Kelly's on the wait list for the Fresh Paint Tribe, awesome. All right, moving along. So the ground that the reindeer is on is all pretty dark here, so we're gonna wash that all in dark. This is our negative space here. And we're gonna pick up the ground over here, find that dark shadow, negative space, that's easy to find. We've got a little wedge right here and right there. Now we've got, this is kind of indicating a dark shadow on that leg, and here the leg is bent, so there's like a dark shadow right there. And we've got this dark that kind of comes down the neck here. All right. And we're almost done with the first pass here of color in our underpainting. I think we'll wash a little bit in there. So basically what you want to look for when you're doing this first pass of color is you want to have something, some wash of color next to basically all the outlines. So if there's an outline there, it's probably for a reason. It's probably outlining either a highlight or a shadow. So you're either going to wash in the shadow around that highlight, or you're going to wash in the shadow that indicates the shadow. Make sense? All right. I said I was done with this, but I'm not. I'm gonna put a little bit more in here. All right, so now let's do the second pass of color. And this is really going to help to kind of sort these shapes out because it looks a little bit messy right now. So we're gonna add more of our Payne's Gray and Alizarin Crimson so that there will be less water in this mixture. And we're just gonna pump up those slightly darker shadows a little bit more. All right, so still thinning with water, still have a pretty soupy puddle, but a little bit less water here now. All right, Patty's on the wait list for the Fresh Paint Tribe, love it. Okay, here we go. Let's look and see, where's it the darkest? So I'm squinting at my image and I'm going to find this antler that comes out at me right here first, because I think once you find this major dark shadow on this antler, it's going to help us to see the image a little better, because like I said, it was a little chaotic right here with washing in those shadows in the foreground and in the background. And so if that got a little bit confusing for you, I think finding this really dark dramatic shadow that wraps around these antlers is going to help to sort those shapes out a little bit. And I'm using my number 5 brush right now in case anybody has the same brushes as me and you're wondering, that's what I'm using. Okay, now we've got a dark shadow along this one. All right, dark right there. And we've got some pretty dark shapes in the background here. We've got a dark wedge that I didn't put in before. It hugs along the bottom of that antler right there. And then it's pretty dark in the background right here. Okay, let's move along. We've got a dark shadow along this piece, and it gets pretty dark, kind of wrapping around this highlighted antler here. So in order to make something look brighter, you'll often push what's around it darker, and that's what's happening here around that antler. Okay, so yeah, I think that really helped us to separate those antlers and just identify them a little bit more. Now let's put this dark shape on the nose or on the snout, whatever we want to call it there. I want to indicate that. We're going to put some dark shapes around the mouth. And I'm going to zoom in on the eye. And I think I'm going to grab my smaller brush so that I can get those shapes around the eye a little more specific. I'm actually going to drop down to my number 1 because, you know, I've said this before. I paint loose, but when it comes to getting the specifics of the features, like the eyes, I get really tight because I want these tiny little shapes to be spot on and accurate. I don't want these to be loosey-goose because if the eye gets shaped different from what it is, it's really gonna throw the whole thing off. And that's especially true if you're painting like a portrait of a person. Maybe not as much for a reindeer, but you know, we can be loose with the shapes of the antlers and the fur because none of that's gonna make it look like a different, you know, subject. Unless I guess the antlers were really crazy, but you know what I mean. But if we get really off in the features, that can really throw things off. Oh, Donna found the waitlist sign up. Perfect. Yeah, I should have thought about that I've only put it out there in posts. I haven't actually put it on my website. I need to do that. Thanks for reminding me. So many things I've been doing. Did you guys know Christmas is in a few days? Oh my gosh, I am so not ready, and I have like about 1 million things to finish. So yeah, I'm almost done painting for the year though. I only have like, I think 3 more paintings to finish in the next 2 days. No big deal, we can do it. Good thing I like to paint. I've noticed that a lot of you guys are really cranking out some paintings in my Facebook group. If you guys don't know, I have a Facebook group called Allie's Paint Friends, and that's where people post their paint-along pieces and other work that's like inspired by the instruction that I'm sharing. And holy cow, you guys have just been like sharing away in there lately. I can tell you guys are making GIFs, and it's pretty awesome how many pieces have been shared in there lately and how good they are. I love seeing that. All right, I think we're almost done with these dark shapes. Just gonna maybe do a little more here. So this is pretty dramatically darker than that first pass. I'm really looking for those super dark areas, and I wouldn't necessarily go this dark always, but because this is a very high contrast image, I really want to make sure that we get these super dark tones in, because that's going to help us to just complete this image, you know, in a really quick amount of time here, and just have a lot of definition. All right, let's see what else we need to do. Looks pretty good. I think we might be able to move on to doing our wash, our underpainting wash. So the next step is to do a complementary color underpainting wash. So we will do that, what's basically the opposite color on the color wheel from what we see here. That's what we're going to wash in here for the complementary color underpainting. So if the color is going to be very cool, we're gonna wash in a warm color. If it's going to be warm, we're gonna wash in a cool color. We don't always do the exact opposite. We kind of push it a little bit and just basically use colors that we like. Hi, Luann. Luann says, your techniques have kept me busy. Is that an iPad Pro? Yeah, this is an iPad Pro, but you know what? If you're just using your iPad for like storing your reference image, it actually doesn't matter what tablet you have. You know, any tablet will work as long as it's got a clear picture on it and you can put it right next to where you're working. So I use my iPad Pro for some other things like video editing and stuff, but if you're just using it to edit some images and have a reference image, you know, anything will work. Okay, so I'm gonna get a bigger brush for washing in the underpainting color. And let's talk about what color we're going to do. So the head right here and the antlers are all pretty warm. So I'm going to do a cool tone for those. I'm going to choose Phthalo Blue Green shade, which is an insanely intense color from Golden. I guess that's why I love it, but you hardly need any. I have tons of water here to thin this out. Hi, Louise. She says, first time to watch, coming from West Texas. Well, welcome. Glad you made it. All right, so let's wash in these antlers, and I'm not going to stay in the lines. I'm just getting the general area of these antlers. I have my paint super thin and watered down, so it's gonna dry really fast, which will be great because we're gonna layer paint right on top of it. So we need it to dry quickly. All right, so we're washing in where those antlers are. There we go. Now I want to do the head, I think, with the same blue, but if you look, the body is actually pretty cool. So this chunk of the body, I'm going to switch and do a different underpainting color. So just for right now, let's put this blue in the areas where we see brown, those warm brown tones. Let's wash in our blue there, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do for the other areas. Okay, let's see. And you know, maybe I'll do these legs too, because those legs look pretty warm to me. So I'm gonna make a little bit more of my underpainting color. We're gonna wash that in. All right, great, cool. Okay, then for the rest of the body, I think we will do, I'm trying to decide if I want to do Quinacridone Magenta or if I want to do a burnt orange color. I think I want to do Quinacridone Magenta. So that's what we're going to do. I don't think I have any on my palette yet. Yep. All right. So you can kind of, you know, you can pick and choose. You can use what you want. I love Quinacridone Magenta as an underpainting, and it's not the true opposite. If we call this blue, magenta wouldn't really be the true opposite, but it doesn't really have to be. As long as magenta is pretty much a warm color. It's a cooler red, but it's pretty much a warm color because it's a red. It'll work as an opposite of our blue tone. And I've got it super thin. Get the ear in there. So a lot of times I get asked, why do you do this underpainting? And part of it is that when you eliminate the white on your panel, like right off the bat, it just makes the painting feel more finished. Just getting something on there. Another reason is it helps you to be more adventurous with color if you kind of force yourself right off the bat to lay something down that feels adventurous. It just kind of like, it sets the tone for the rest of the painting. So those are just some of the reasons. There are actually a lot more. I'm gonna put this on the snout too. But those are just two things to think about. You know, makes the painting feel more complete, and it just reminds you to have fun and be adventurous. All right, I might need to wash this in a little bit darker, especially right here, but I'm gonna let this first pass of magenta dry so that I can come back and layer that up a little more. All right, so in the background, we have a lot of really dark tones. And so I'm going to do that burnt orange in the background because we have dark, cool tones, a lot of like blues and grays there. So we're going to make our burnt orange using alizarin crimson and Hansa yellow opaque. I love mixing those two colors together. It makes this really pretty burnt orange. And of course I'm watering it down. And I'm going to put it on pretty thick in the places where I see that the background's really dark. So that allows me to not have to fight it so much when I'm trying to make it dark if I lay my underpainting down dark. I'm gonna put a little more Hansa yellow in there. It was a little too much alizarin crimson. Let's see, Wilson says, I'm trying to purchase the pine cone, the pie, and Santa, but I'm only seeing the purchase option for the reindeer. Am I in the wrong place? So Wilson, I actually retired all of the other templates on December 15th. So you can still watch all of my old paint along demos, but I don't have those downloads available anymore. So I know that might be a little bit disappointing, but I can tell you that I'm going to have a lot more opportunities coming next year with that Fresh Paint Tribe for a lot more content and paint along type of teaching. So yeah, that's my answer there. Sorry you missed out on those. I know a lot of people were stocking up. All right, we're gonna keep going here with a little more of that alizarin crimson and Hansa yellow. I'm gonna keep washing this into the background. All right. All right, cool. Now, what do we want to do here where we're seeing a lot of like purple tones there? So opposite of purple would pretty much be yellow. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna do like a mustard yellow. And the way we're gonna make that is using burnt umber light and a little bit of Hansa yellow opaque. Those are gonna make kind of like this golden mustard yellow, which is also really nice for a underpainting color. So we're gonna put it in kind of darker down here. And you know, by putting these neutral tones in for some of our underpainting, it actually makes the other areas of underpainting really pop, like that are gonna have the pink. So I don't always do like super intense colors. Sometimes I put in slightly more neutral underpainting colors like this one. Oh, we got a little blue on there, but that's okay. Okay, so we got that much. Now I can come back and wash this pink in again. I'm gonna make sure my brush is super clean because I don't want any of that golden tone on it. You know, it seems like I'm just looking at my video here. I hope it's not a little bit blurry today. I'm just gonna real quick rub where my video is. I don't want my camera. Ooh, that maybe, I wonder if that made it any better. We'll see. That made it a little bit better, I think. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go back to the quinacridone and we're gonna push that in dark. Yeah, we want that nice and dark here. Because I can see on the reindeer, this area is pretty dark, so I want my underpainting wash to be pretty dark there. All right, that feels pretty good. Okay. Maybe I'll bring a little bit of that down the mouth too. Oh, I didn't get that little wedge of background in between the head. I need to put some of that mustard color in. Do you see that little slice there? There we go. Okay, so this pretty much completes our underpainting stage. So now we're going to start putting in like the actual colors that we see. And so now we want to make sure that all of this underpainting wash is totally dry before we layer anything on top of it. I just noticed I want this ear to be a little bit darker. Okay. And we're no longer going to thin our paints with water. We're going to thin them with medium. So again, I'm using this Glazing Medium. This is Liquitex Matte Medium. This is going to make the paints kind of transparent without making them like runny. It's going to keep the body of the paint. So where are we going to start? We want to start somewhere where it's dry. So I think we're going to start in the background here because this feels pretty dry there. So I'm going to start with kind of like a dark navy blue that we're going to use to put some of those real dark areas in the background. So I'm going to use Payne's Gray, and I'm going to put a little bit of white in there because it's not going to be like our darkest value. Our darkest value is really on those antlers. So we have to separate it. I'm going to put a little Glazing Medium in there. So far we've got just Payne's Gray. I'm going to also put a little bit of Burnt Umber Light in there, which will kind of gray this out a little bit more because otherwise Payne's Gray is basically navy blue. All right. And we're going to start dropping this into that background. And this is basically going in the darkest areas of the background. And I'm leaving little bits of that red underpainting kind of poking around. Here and there, because we don't want to cover up all that fun underpainting. We want to leave some of that kind of playing peekaboo here. This is kind of like going on top of the areas where we washed in the background before. I just noticed I had that washed in blue. It really should have been more of that red, but that's okay. So I like to build up the darks first and then kind of work our way towards the lighter tones. All right, so now we want to lighten the blue, but we also want to make it a pinch more intense. So I'm going to use a little bit of phthalo blue green shade, put that into my mixture, and then put a little bit more white in there. Before we were just using Payne's Gray, so that's not a very intense blue, but now we're going to bring in some of this more intense phthalo blue, still putting a little glaze in there. And we'll drop some of this tone in. And you want it to definitely look a few notches different from what was there before. You want to be able to see the difference. Hopefully you can on mine. Okay, then we're going to go even lighter, put some more white in there and more phthalo blue. And you know what? That's still not intense enough for me. I'm going to move to a new spot because I have too much gray in there. I'm going to do white and I'm going to do some phthalo blue because I really want these to kind of be real intense. A little more white, a little bit of Glazing Medium. All right, this is going to really stand out. Boom, there we go. And we're going to go lighter yet. I don't want to cover up all my orange underpainting. Okay. This needs to dry though before I can go even lighter. So we're gonna let that be for right now. I see a little bit of that blue kind of coming down right here in the background, kind of laying down on the ground. Maybe a few little bits over there. See some little sparkle. I'm just gonna bring that in. Okay, now let's find the Antler Colors. I'm gonna switch to a slightly smaller brush. I'm gonna go down to my number 3. And for the antlers, I'm going to make kind of this warm brown tone. We will make that using Burnt Umber Light, white. I probably need to get some more white. It's It's actually gonna be the same 4 colors I use for my skin tones. Pyrrole Red Light and Hansa Yellow Opaque. And so that's gonna make this nice kind of popping orangey brown tone. That feels pretty good. Okay, then I'm going to use that to just pull out those antler colors. All right, so right here we see this strong color. Now I don't want to cover up all my fun blue, so I'm going to make sure that I kind of leave some space, leave some little peekaboo windows of that blue. This little highlight gets pretty skinny right there, so I'm turning my brush on the side. That's what I love about these flat or square tip brushes, is you can turn them the long way and get like a nice skinny line, or you can pull them the other direction and get a fat line. They're very versatile. That's what I like. And because I don't blend any colors, I don't really need a brush that's going to be good for blending, so that's just me. All right, we want to get this one that's really standing out, kind of hooking around. You want to get that shape in. You kind of twist your brush to get that shape in. There we go. And let's look over here at this one. We just have a skinny little slice of it along the edge there. Picks up on that one. Another little chunk coming through. So because this blue is dry, we're able to layer right on top of it and not have it like mix in or contaminate the color. It really just like contrasts it so nicely that it makes the orange feel even more intense, or not orange, but like this kind of peachy brown tone. It feels more intense because it's contrasted by that blue. That's another reason why we do that underpainting. All right, so that helped to kind of shape up our antlers. We're gonna add more highlight to those later, but this at least like puts some color there, because when the antlers were blue and the background was blue, well then it all started to like mush together, you know? So when you're in that messy middle stage, when you're transferring from the underpainting colors to the local color, it can get a bit chaotic when you've done it in some places and not others. But my best advice is just push through and keep going. Now I can see a lot of this color that's falling down onto the head as well. So I'm just gonna keep what's on my brush here and just start dropping this in onto the head. I might add a little glazing medium into it. I don't think I did before. I'm gonna thin it out a little bit, so that a little bit more of that blue underpainting is gonna poke through. And we'll catch a little edge right there. You see how I'm like changing the direction of my brush strokes? That makes a difference to make it all feel really just natural and kind of carefree. Okay. And I'm also kind of putting the brush strokes as though they're like wrapping around the snout, thinking about the direction of the forms. That makes a difference too. All right. Now let's start to put in some of these white tones just to like cover up so much of that pink that we're seeing. But I don't want to go to straight white. We're going to build our way up towards the white. So we're going to start with it a little bit more grayed out. I'm going to clean up my brush here. And we're going to make a gray using, surprise, surprise, Payne's Gray, which I need to get more of. Okay, so we're going to use Payne's Gray and white. And we're gonna put a little bit of burnt umber in there to gel it down. I'm gonna put some glazing medium in there. All right. And we're just gonna start to build up some of this color. Now it might seem like this is too dark right off the bat, but we will brighten this up. This is just kind of like layering in some of these shadows. Now it's not gonna go where it's the darkest right here. It's kind of that in between. It's kind of a middle color that we're starting with, which is basically the way I approach a lot of things. I kind of start in the middle and push my way towards the light and push my way towards the dark shadows. But definitely being conscious of leaving that fun magenta there. We don't want to cover up all our fun magenta. And looking at the direction of the fur, how it's kind of swooping down here. Oops, I accidentally dipped my brush into the more blue-gray, but that's okay. That might be good. All right, we'll put some of this gray along this leg here, coming down here. Got some on the snout. I don't want to get too carried away with what I'm adding in here. Where else do we see some of that gray? Maybe a little up there, all along the head there. Now this I do want, I'm gonna leave that purple, let that be the dark tone right there. And then let's go ahead and add some more white to this. We're gonna brighten this up. So I'm just dumping the white right in there. And this will be a little bit more opaque now, that's okay. But this is gonna be like our next step towards the brighter tones. So we'll see how that shows up. You see how that creates that difference, that contrast? And yeah, we'll just drop that all in right there. And bring that ear in. And then when we brighten our whites up even more, it's gonna really pop because we've built up like so much of a base. All right, where else do we put some whites? We've got whites around the eye, definitely. And I'm sure a lot of you who have watched so many of these paint-alongs, I'm sure you notice that there's definitely like a pattern. It doesn't even so much matter what it is you're painting. I just keep following the same system. And it just always works. You know, some paintings might become more challenging than others, but if you stick with the system of, you know, identifying the shadows, finding those strong highlights, you know, really being conscious of the color that you are trying to represent, it just works. You know, and I know a lot of you who have done a lot of these paintings, who have really like put the time into showing up and, you know, finding time to do this. I can see it in your work. I can see how much progress you've made in the past year just by doing a lot of painting. Let's see, Linda says, this is first time joining. I hope to paint this weekend. I missed the beginning. Well, welcome, Linda. Yeah, if you got the outlines for this, you can certainly watch the replay and go back and paint it on your own. And if any of you don't have the outlines yet, you can still get the outlines for this one. They're on my website, alliekstudio.com. So those are still available, and maybe you'll be able to give it as a Christmas gift. That would be a fun gift. All right, drop in some more of these brighter tones. Let's see, we're almost there with this color. Okay, so on these legs, I mentioned how those are slightly warmer. So I'm actually just gonna dip my brush into my Pyrrole Red Light just a little bit and go into that same puddle, which will make kind of like a grayed out pink, maybe a slightly more purple, but it's still gonna be pretty neutral. And I'm going to use that to drop the tone in on these other legs that I can see in the image are slightly warmer. So just by touching that little bit of Pyrrole Red Light, that really adjusted my neutral here pretty quickly. So I didn't have to go make a whole new pile. I could just kind of touch it and it'll adjust what I'm working with. There we go. And then we've got like his butt back there, which I haven't put in, but it's a warm tone, but it's even a little bit warmer. So I'm just gonna grab a little bit more of that Pyrrole Red Light, and I'm going to use that to put that even warmer little bit of his butt back there that we hadn't put in yet. There we go. Good, good. And maybe we'll put some of that on the other eye right here too. I see kind of a warm tone right there. All right, good deal. Now let's put some of these real dark tones in that are like a pretty dark gray. So we're gonna make that using Payne's Gray, surprise, and a little bit of white, and a little bit of Burnt Umber Light. Oh, that was alizarin crimson. Sorry, is that? Yeah, that's alizarin crimson. You can use alizarin crimson, that's what we're gonna do, cool. All right, so Payne's Gray, alizarin crimson, and white is what we're gonna use for this new dark. And I'm gonna drop this in where it feels really dark here. So it's gonna go on top of some of those purple tones that we washed in. It looks really nice against those. Yeah, push those darks even darker. Yep, let's see here. It's pretty dark down here. All right, what else? Pretty dark. You know, I can use this for some of the ground color right here too, because we haven't really put that in over here as well. It's kind of like this dark purpley tone, but remember to leave little bits of that gold poking through. And I like to leave a little bit more of the gold kind of as a halo around the outside of the panel. I don't want to do it like a perfect halo because that looks forced, but that's generally where I leave a little bit more of the underpainting showing, is kind of around those edges. I'm squinting a lot as I go. That's like the most important tool, is squinting. It just helps you to simplify the shapes and not get hung up on those details, and really compare yours to the reference and ask yourself, like, what's different? What do I need to change? How can I make it look like the shapes that I'm seeing? Not like the object I'm seeing, but like the shapes that I'm seeing. That's what you're looking for. All right, so going into the background here, it gets to be kind of like this purple color, and I do think I like that. So before we go into that purple, I'm gonna lighten this gray just a pinch though. I'm gonna put a little more white in there. And maybe I'll put a little phthalo blue in there, just to blue it up a little. Yeah, I like that, maybe a little more white. Just kind of playing around with that neutral color. Those neutrals that really get a little bit wild there in the background. Okay, you know, I see some of this color over here too, so I'm gonna drop that in over there. All right, so then we're gonna go into that purple. Now, you guys might know that my favorite paint color, Permanent Violet Dark, my go-to purple, is not available right now from Golden, but I heard that it's coming back. But since we can't use that, or we can't buy it, I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna make purple. I'm going to use Quinacridone Magenta and just a tiny speck of phthalo blue green shade, like teeny, teeny, tiny, and that will make our purple. So until they bring back my permanent violet dark, this is what we're going to use. And then we're gonna add a bunch of white to it because otherwise it's too dark. And a little bit of glazing medium. That was maybe too much white. We need more magenta now. And a pinch more of the blue. Okay, let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks good. I don't want to overdo this color because it's kind of a wild color, but I think a little bit is going to be fun. That's probably it. Then we get into kind of like this peachy gray tone. And I don't want to get too carried away with like too many colors in the background. So I think I'm going to go back to my gray that I was using and just drop a little more pyrrole red into it and a little bit of white. We're just gonna kind of let that be like a neutral, like a warm neutral. So adding that pyrrole red will warm that up. And we'll just do a little dash to break that up. We don't need to try to do every single color in the background because that's gonna make it turn into a rainbow and it's just gonna take away from our focal point, which is the deer. I'm gonna use this to put some like little indication of these posts in the background. They're not quite that color, but I'm just gonna use it for the sake of getting some color on there. We're gonna put some in the background up there, maybe over here. Yeah, we just need to keep moving because we only have 9 minutes left, but we're gonna finish this painting. It's getting close. So we have not done any detail in the eye yet. I'm gonna zoom in on the eye because we wanna make sure we get the eye in. And hopefully you guys can see this. There's like this really pretty magenta like lid right there. And so I'm gonna grab my tiny little #1 brush and I'm gonna add that little bit of that ring of magenta that is super pretty. So I'm gonna do magenta and a little bit of white. And maybe that's it. Maybe I'll just do some magenta and white and add that little highlight. And I'm gonna get in pretty tight. Sorry if my head's blocking it, but I need to be able to get pretty detailed here. Just to get that little bit in. Okay, and then we want to do this flash of blue on the eye because that's going to be pretty important too. So we're going to make that using phthalo blue green shade and a little bit of white. So we're going to do this little flash here. We're going to let it dry and then we're going to come back and brighten it a little bit. So we're going to start with it a little bit more on the blue. And then we'll come back after I do something else and do another pass to make that even a little bit brighter. And while we're waiting for that, we'll zoom back out and we're going to brighten up some of the fur that is gonna be that cool white. So let's go back to the color we made for the fur. How are we gonna do it? We're going to use white, and a little bit of Payne's Gray. But now we're gonna use like a lot less of the Payne's Gray. This is gonna be mostly white. Now my white's slightly contaminated, but it doesn't matter because I'm contaminating my color on purpose a little bit here. And just a pinch of burnt umber light. And then I'm going to add some glaze. I'm gonna get myself some fresh glaze because that glaze is really contaminated. All right, need some more white. Okay, this looks pretty good. Now let's pull out those super bright areas. You see how this looks just notches brighter than what we had? We'll probably still go a little bit brighter, but for right now, that is making a difference. Maybe I'll dump a little more white in there. So we don't want any glaze really. Maybe I put some in, but I mean, it's gonna be mostly paint at this point because we want this white to really stand out, to kind of glow against those other neutrals. And we're not putting it everywhere, we're just putting it where we see the brightest tones on the reindeer. So we definitely see some like on the snout here. Kind of coming around. Where else is it kind of bright? On the fur here, but not all the way up, just kind of sparkling at the edges. And then I'm gonna grab a smaller brush and put some white in around the eye. I'm gonna go down to my number 1. Okay, zoom in. I wanna get these highlights just right. This is important. This is like giving the reindeer its character. Okay, zooming back out a little. I see some bright over here. Picking it up over here. So whenever I have a color on my brush, you guys have probably noticed this, that I just kind of like work my way around the panel, and I'm like, where else can I put this? I've already mixed it. I don't want to waste it. So I just keep seeing where else I can drop it in. And I move pretty quickly, you know, working like the whole panel, getting a little bit here and a little bit there. And it just helps to bring unity to the piece. It helps to save paint and all those good things. All right. Now on the hoof back there, we want a bright highlight, but I want it to be like that warmer bright highlight. So I'm gonna mix up a different white. I'm going to make a white using white and a little bit of pyrrole red light and just a speck of Hansa Yellow Opaque. So it's gonna be like more of a peachy white. But I think that's gonna be really kind of pretty because it's gonna contrast our other whites. And we'll probably drop that peachy white in somewhere else too. But let's see how that looks there. So it's pretty bright like that. And it really stands out because we've got those other neutrals that we've already put down. Yeah, I like that. Now, where else do I see this peachy highlight? And add a little more red and yellow to it. So I see it around the eyes, kind of that warmer tone. And that's gonna contrast that blue. And then I'm gonna add more red and yellow. I'm gonna add more pyrrole red and more Hansa Yellow. So pushing it towards the orange. And I'm gonna put a little sparkle in kind of around the fur on the head. So we've got kind of this orange sparkle on the edge there. And I'm using my number 1 brush right now. I'm kind of dropped down. So there's no burnt umber in this recipe though. This is just the orange, pyrrole red light, Hansa Yellow Opaque and white. And that's why it's really standing out against those other neutrals because it's popping. And I'm gonna dance some of this around the antlers too, I think. That's gonna make those antlers glow for us. Because those antlers really stand out against those dark tones in the background. I think that's what's really fun about this composition. Having those antlers kind of run off the page. I really like it. Yeah, that is really fun. All right. I'm gonna add a little more yellow to it, just to kind of vary it up. You don't usually want your color to be like too consistent across everywhere because then it starts to look a little bit fake. That's not how light really works. You know, if there's a bright light shining on something and it's dancing around a bunch of different subjects, it's not gonna show up exactly the same on all of them. It's gonna kind of change as it bounces around. right. There's a little bit of pink in the nose that we haven't put in, so I want to make sure we do that. So we'll make that pink with Quinacridone Magenta and some white and a little bit of Pyro Red to make it a little bit more of like a pinky pink, not so much a purpley pink. I'm gonna put a little dash in the nose right there. Maybe a little bit going up into there, inside the nostril. That's about all I needed. I just wanted to make sure we got that in. Okay, now we need some more grays in the background here because I want to separate, and the background gets lighter. I want to make this dark pass of the antler feel darker. So I'm just going to go back to, I think, my number 3 brush, and I'm going to make another like mid-tone gray. So I'll make my gray with Payne's gray and some white. Maybe I'll put a little hints of yellow in there. Make it a little bit more of a greeny gray. I think that'll be pretty. Yeah, I'm gonna put a little more white in there. So I use Payne's gray, hints of yellow, and white here, and that makes kind of a nice dull greeny gray. Let's drop some of that into the background here. Yeah, just gonna help to separate that antler a little bit. We'll dance some of that gray around right here. Yeah, I like that. Where else can I drop this in? Maybe over here. Oh, look at this antler. We didn't fill that in. It gets kind of like more red. We need to get the rest of that in. So how will we do that? We will use our 4-color skin recipe. Burnt umber light, Pyro red light, Hansa yellow opaque, and a little tiny bit of white. A little more burnt umber. We just want to get this in nice and popping up there. A little more Pyro red. Because that antler like runs off the page and we were kind of missing that. Where else do I want a little of this? Maybe right here. Okay, we're just about finished here, but I want to push our blacks like darker again. So I will save like the brightest whites and the darkest darks until the very end. So I'm gonna mix myself like a nice inky black and just push those super dark areas dark one more time. So we'll do that using, we're gonna do alizarin crimson. I need a clean spot to work here. Let's see. Alizarin crimson, and we're gonna do some phthalo green blue shade. You could also use phthalo blue, but I'm gonna use phthalo green because those two I think are gonna make a nice dark. Yeah, that's nice and dark. Okay, so we're going to find that main antler here, the one that really stands out with that nice dark shadow, and we're gonna push that dark shadow dark one more time. Give it a little more drama. Yeah, like that. And where else do we see it super dark? Just kind of cleaning up those shapes. And then we're gonna call this done for the final paint along of all the paint alongs, but don't be too sad because I got some really good stuff coming your way next year. Push that a little darker. Let's see. Where else is it pretty dark? Got a couple little dashes of this real intense dark, maybe on the deer. You know, maybe we'll push it dark around the eyeball a little more. Oh, we have to do that extra little flash on the eyeball. I forgot. We were gonna brighten that blue up. We gotta do that yet. It's pretty dark on the snout. We're gonna go around here by the legs and push those darks a little bit more. Yeah, we need to get this really, really dark, high contrast. That's what's gonna make it feel dimensional and lifelike. All right, let's go do that one little flash of blue. We cannot leave that. We can't forget that guy. I noticed on my screen that the iPad, like how it's looking on your screen, it's not looking as white as what it is. Maybe if I tilt it a little, you'll be able to see. This is really white on my iPad. If you are working on yours at home, make sure that you have your reference image like saved on a screen somewhere, because that's going to be really helpful for you. Okay, so we're going to do white and a little bit of phthalo blue, do that little flash of highlight. That was maybe, yeah, that's good. I'm gonna do a little more white and phthalo blue, I think, just kind of dancing around this fur right there. And then we'll be done. I keep saying, and then we'll be done. It's like I'm afraid to be done with paint-alongs because I've loved them so much. I've loved painting with you guys every Monday. But change is a good thing. I'm really excited for what's coming. All right, so let's dance this little cha-cha blue here. You guys know I love to like put this in at the end. Dance it around. Kind of let it sparkle. Yeah, I like that. A little bit around here. Yep, we don't want to do too much because I can see myself getting carried away with this one real fast. But just want to get a little bit in. All right. Then we're gonna put the brightest white just on the back right there. I think I'm gonna go in with straight white, but I have too much blue on my brush. We'll try just putting a little straight white. If your white's a tiny bit contaminated with blue, it's okay, mine is. But I just want to pull those super bright little bits out. Not everywhere, just a couple places. Don't try to blend these in, just like lay them down and let them be fresh and random. That's what's gonna make them feel natural. If like, people will be able to tell if you like lay them down slowly and timidly. It's just something about it, they can just tell. So just lay them down nice and fluid and don't second guess, just do it. All right, I think we are going to call this one finished. Doing one more last final look. Oh, the white up there. I want to do that bright white up there because I think that balances out the deer. So I'm going to go back to a slightly bigger brush. I'm going to go back to my number 5 here. And I'm going to use some of that blue that I was just using. I'm going to put a little glaze in there and a little more white and just build up. Yeah. Oop, that went a little too far. It's just real bright along that one antler. I want to get that in. Yeah, we just needed like something in the background. Maybe a little offset it right there. Okay, now we're gonna be done. I promise, we're gonna be done. Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you guys for joining me for the final paint along. I hope that you guys have had as much fun as I have doing all these demos. It's been a total blast. I cannot wait to share more about the Fresh Paint Tribe, which is launching early next year. Make sure you add your name to the wait list. I'm gonna put the link in the comments, but just in case if you can't find it there for whatever reason, it will be on my website shortly, probably by tomorrow. So don't forget, put your name on the wait list for the Fresh Paint Tribe so that you get first opportunity to find out more and become a part of the tribe. All right, thanks again. Also, thanks for sharing this demo. Those of you that have, I really appreciate appreciate it. I can't wait to see all of your reindeer in my group, Allie's Paint Friends. You guys are the best. Have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all the things. I love you guys. Take care.